I stopped on the side of the interstate at a very interesting location here in Middle Tennessee. As you might know, most of the state has limestone, or mid-state has limestone. But here in this location, the walls of the limestone cut into the side of the road are stained bright orange. And as you might guess, that is due to the presence of iron-rich ores, which I think in previous times, before Civil War maybe, were mined for iron ore around here. But I was more curious to know whether or not there was going to be any Eastern Red Cedar here, because I know Eastern Red Cedar tolerates alkaline soils very well, but I think that the presence of iron would make this a very acidic soil here. And you can see there's this very crumbly, really rusty red rock here. It just looks like someone laid a bunch of metal out here and it rusted, but it's really just the iron in the rock, the iron ore, converting to iron oxide, and it's falling down everywhere here. But there seems to be plenty of Eastern Red Cedar. Juniperus virginiana is very adaptable to almost any soil condition. Here it is growing on the side of the road where it almost certainly gets blasted by salt, and in this case, acidic iron runoff. Here's some more Eastern Red Cedars growing next to fallen boulders, side of the road here, and you can see the rust, the iron oxide is washing down to where they are, and they're tolerating it very well. Lots of new small red cedars sprouting up right here in one of the most inhospitable environments. The texture of this iron ore is pretty amazing, the way it falls apart in slabs like this. I don't know if that's a type of iron-rich shale or what. And also, mixed in between it, there's a lot of fossiliferous limestone here. You can see the ancient mollusk fossils there, seashells, that were at the bottom of the ocean. Here's a whole row of Eastern Red Cedar growing right here. A pile of that iron ore that fell down, and you can see right next to that, downstream, plenty of red cedar growth. So they definitely tolerate the extreme iron acidity environment. One more quick look at this iron ore bearing shale, I guess it is. The way it just crumbles, it's amazing. And it's these giant flakes just come apart. Look at that. The whole thing just separates. Now I'm back at my house, and I was looking underneath my loblolly pines and noticed there are several Eastern Red Cedar seedlings sprouting up here. This, of course, is due to birds that eat the little berries on the cedar tree and then spread them all over. That's why the cedar pops up in random locations on sides of cliffs and things like that. And there's one there, and there's another one right there. Here's one right here, and right next to that, another one, and I think maybe two more right here. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe harvest these little seedlings and replant them, because this is right next to an area where I lost 5 Arizona cypress trees during the December 2022 cold snap. And I haven't really planted anything here back in this area because it's partial sun, since it is under the loblollies, but Eastern Red Cedar is pretty resilient, and I think it'll do just fine in this area because there's enough sun to sustain it. And the other interesting thing I found while I was here is a holly tree sprouting up from nowhere. I'm guessing the birds also spread this one here as well, so I'll probably relocate that and keep that going. I'm guessing it's a hybrid, maybe a foster holly, because that's the most common holly you see around here that would look like this. So also interesting to see a holly sprouting up. Just goes to show you holly is also a very tough, durable species that is pretty reliable. And I found one more holly in the same area. And last of all, a quick look at my largest specimen of Eastern Red Cedar. This is a straight species, not any kind of horticultural cultivar. This was harvested from a nearby forest. It was pretty small. Maybe that was about 7 years ago, and since then it's grown a lot. And actually I moved it once after it had already gotten about 5 feet tall. Let's check the size of the trunk here. Pretty big trunk. And you can see actually right there, if you look in the middle of the trunk, there's that cut off branch there kind of sticking out. That's where at one point the tree had 2 leaders, and actually let one of the secondary leaders get pretty large before I realized that was a mistake. So I cut that off, and since then the tree has obviously kind of just grown around that and continues to get much bigger. And looking up into the canopy, very regular branching structure, and there's only 1 leader because I trimmed it to be that way. And just a reminder that the adult foliage of the cedar is this small scale-like foliage, and as you saw earlier, the seedlings have a bluer, spikier texture, but the adult is pretty scaly, very fine textured, but the branches are still a little spiny because, as you can see there, the branches maintain their scales, I guess, and they kind of elongate and sharpen to form a poking, kind of spiny texture. If you go against the grain and kind of like shove your hand into the cedar, you're probably going to get poked by that. But as long as you touch the cedar with the grain and move kind of away from the cedar, it's very soft to the touch. So overall, not a very spiny juniper compared to a lot of other junipers. It's pretty soft, so that's one good thing about it. Relatively garden friendly. And you can see, even though we're in February, there are still a few of the shriveled juniper berries left on the tree that were not eaten by birds. And I guess maybe if it weren't for the fact that this is growing over a lawn that gets mowed, those might drop and sprout more cedars as well. I think maybe it helps if the juniper berries go through the digestive tract of the bird. That probably accelerates and increases the rate of germination. But overall, you can find them growing pretty much anywhere in Middle Tennessee, and it's an obvious choice as a low-maintenance, fast-growing evergreen conifer.